Leveling up. Extreme business growth through raising your game. When what was once extraordinary becomes ordinary, you know you've leveled up.
Hello and welcome to the Leveling Up Podcast with me, George Swift. The Leveling Up Podcast is here to give you the personal development, the entrepreneurial development and the business growth that you, the ambitious business owner, desires. I'm here to give you the inspiration and motivation, but above all else, as always, to challenge your aspirations to take you and your business to the next level. Don't forget to subscribe and never miss an episode. And today it is Friday, and therefore it is our Friday 5-minute fix. A shorter podcast here designed to give you food for thought to take into the weekend to ponder and postulate, and then to come out next week all guns a-blazing. My question this week and for this weekend is what next? Not in an exclamation mark perspective, as in what the hell is coming down the line next? What is the next thing? What's the next thing on the landscape that's going to make my life harder than it already is? No, that's not what I'm talking about. When I'm saying what next, it's what are you going to focus on next? Where do you need to be focusing your attention right now? I said right at the beginning of all of this chaos, I said, you're going to have to clear that shit that found itself right in front of our face. We have to clear that out of the way. Then we can see a little bit further. When we can see a little bit further, we can see the next thing that we have to get out of the way. What's the next thing that we need to move aside? What's the next problem we need to solve? And then once that moves, we can see a little bit further into the future and we say, right, what's the next thing? Well, then what's the next thing? And then what's the next thing? Too many business owners, at the moment we're trying to solve everything at once, and you can't. You can't solve everything right now. You can only solve what you can solve right now. And even if you can solve a problem that's 6 months down the line, why would you when there's a problem that needs to be solved 2 minutes in front of your face? So the question I want you to take into this weekend is, now we're starting to get out of that holding on to the cliff face where the mud is starting to slip away from our fingers and we're just trying to stop ourselves from falling into the sea. Now that the economy's starting to open up, the world's starting to open up, we're starting to come out into the daylight and just see the damage that the recent storms have inflicted upon us, and we're trying to navigate ourselves out of this ditch that we might find ourselves in. We've got to say, right, what's the next thing? What's the next thing I need to solve? What's the next problem I need to solve? There's no point putting money in a pension pot if you can't afford your mortgage at the end of the week. Think about the right problems to solve at the right time. And I say this over and over again to people, I say the only thing standing between where you are right now and no matter how big you can see in the future is just a series of problems that you need to solve. So you might be, flat on your back right now. You might be, facing eviction. You might be in the worst possible situation you could ever imagine yourself in right now. But I'm telling you, from where you are right now to, £1 million business, multi-million pound empire, £1 billion empire, whatever it is you're trying to create, it's a series of problems that need to be solved along the way to get there. And one of the things we have to do as business owners is we have to tackle those problems and we have to say, right, what's the next problem we need to solve? What's the next problem we need to solve? This isn't the same as feeling like everything's a problem and everything's an issue. When I'm saying what's the next problem, what I mean is what's the next conundrum? What's the next piece of the puzzle that I need to put in place in order to move myself forward, move my business forward, move my ambitions, my dreams forward? And too many business owners, they come out on Monday and they're just firefighting. They're just trying to scrabble around and hold on. They're just trying to come out and deal with whatever chaos or mess is waiting for them on a Monday morning. I want you to come out this Monday and I want you to be purposeful and I want you to be focused and I want you to be disciplined and I want you to know what you're doing. Not just that Monday, but that week, and not just that week, but maybe if you don't have any problems to solve this month, then you think about next month. You think about the quarter. You think about the next 6 months, the next year. But there's no point really thinking about 10 years from now if you haven't got this year in place. And there's no point really thinking about this year if this month isn't in place. And what's the point in thinking about this month if today's not in place? So the reason we want to keep solving these problems is because we want to extend our vision further and increasingly into the future. The further we can see into the future and the further we can take action for the future, then the greater that future can be. Things are always going to be coming up to derail us. Things are always going to be knocking us off our path. We're always going to have to adapt and evolve, and we're going to have to change our plans. But we want to be thinking as far into the future as we can. Now, when I say 10 years in the future, I wouldn't have a marketing plan for 10 years. I wouldn't have a business plan for 10 years because it's pointless. What I mean by having a plan for 10 years, what I mean by that is if everything was in place right now and you wake up and there's nothing to solve and there's nothing to think about, then just say, right, okay, so what does the next period look like? What does life beyond 10 years look like? It's not the same as necessarily coming up with a business plan for 20 years or a marketing strategy for 20 years or a product strategy. It might be, but it's just saying, right, you know what? What's in front of me? What's the next thing that's going to get me? What's the next thing that's going to hold me back? What's the next thing that's going to limit me from achieving what I want to achieve in my business or what I could achieve in my business? For most of us as small business owners, you know, if we can get to a point where we're taking action today that's going to pay off in, say, 3 months in the future, that's not a bad place to aim for initially. But to get to the point where I'm investing my time, my money and energy today for something that's going to pay back in 3 months, I have to make sure that I get on top of today, this week and this month. Once you can get 3 months in the future, then you start thinking, right, okay, so I'm going to invest my time and energy now into something that might not pay me back for another 6 months or maybe even 12 months. Before the lockdown happened, before we ended up in this situation, my business was operating roughly about a year ahead. So in other words, we were investing money and time and resources in things that probably weren't going to pay off till at least 6 months, maybe realistically more like 12 months. Then obviously this catastrophe happens and of course you start playing a shorter game. So of course right now we're not necessarily thinking about 2 years, 3 year visions right now. What we're looking at is navigating this current mess that we find ourselves in so we can get back on track to working and thinking 6 months, 12 months, 2 years in advance. So depending on where you are at in your own business journey will depend on how far into the future you need to look. But fundamentally, there is no point looking far into the future if tomorrow's not taken care of. So go into this weekend and really evaluate what's next. What next? What's the next problem I need to solve? The next action I need to take? What's the next crisis that I need to avert? What's the next problem I need to solve? What's the next piece of the puzzle that needs to be put in place that's going to be laying that track for my future success, my future vision? Ponder that this weekend. Enjoy yourself, spend the time doing whatever it is you want to do, but come out on Monday focused, disciplined, come out on Monday knowing what's next. Have an awesome weekend. If you find yourself at a loose end at any point, don't forget the 6-figure fast track is there waiting for you. How to take your 5-figure service-based business, whether it's 20, 30, 40, 50K in turnover, to 100K or more in the next 12 months or less. Get yourself on the 6-figure fast track. The rules for success are exactly the same as they were just 3 months ago. They're just twice as important right now to be applied. Get yourself on the 6-figure fast track. You'll find it at biggerbrighterbolder.co.uk/fast track. I'll put the link in the descriptions below. Have an awesome weekend, and I'll see you on Monday, and we'll do it all over again. Until then, as always, be successful.
Leveling up. Extreme business growth through raising your game. When what was once extraordinary becomes ordinary, you know you've leveled up.